Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a wrapped bracelet from polymer clay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start out with a skinner blend, and this skinner blend consists of the colours shown on screen. I am using polymer clay. I'm using Primo polymer clay, and what I'm working with here is ecru, gold, apricot, pomegranate, and this is a mix of 6 parts navy blue and 1 part black, so that you kind of get a ash blue. Then I've got a little skinner blend cutter over here, and I'm using it to get triangles out of my clay. And it does not need to be perfect, it's just supposed to roughly help with the process. This one I've got only a little bit of clay, so I might need to patch in for it. And you can do that. When making skinner blends, it's not that big of a deal if it's not perfect. At least the skinner blend that I'm making. Some blends do require precision, but that's not the one that we're doing today. And what I'm planning on doing is making a magic mokume gane and also a kind of graduated skinner blend cane. And I will show you how to do that as the video goes on. And I'm layering the clay so that I get extra of the colour. You could use a larger triangle or you could use thicker clay. The clay that I am using currently is rolled out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, so I can't get it any thicker than it already is. So what I do is I stack it. And I'm just going to cut out a triangle, a stacked triangle of each of my colours. Okay. Then I'm going to start with the pomegranate red. I'm going to then, excuse me, that's a car in the background. I'm then going to apply apricot orange, then the gold, ecru, and then the blue. I think I'm going to pop down by the red because that's going to work the best. Then you want to squish these triangles together so that the clay stays together when you are making your blend, like so. And then let me just pick that up. Alright, and to create a blend, all you're going to do is you're just going to start rolling your clay, and this is much quicker and easier if you put it through the pasta machine, but you'll roll it essentially, and then you're going to fold it like so. Okay, and then you're going to roll it again, and you'll always fold and roll in the same direction. And again, this is a little hard to show because this clay is quite cold, so it's not spreading out as quickly as it would. But you're just going to roll and then fold and then roll again. And your blend should come out looking somewhat like this. Then you're going to fold it again, the same way that you have been. But what I want to do is, this blend is way too long, so I need to take this and I need to squish it up on itself so that it becomes a lot shorter. Sometimes folding it a double time, another time, can help with that. You make the clay a little thicker and then just start squishing it up on itself. And from this point I'm actually going to be making 3 more blends using white, and then from there I'm going to make a graduated skinner blend, and this will be the first time I'm showing this technique on camera, so you'll see what I mean in a little bit, but I think it's going to come out looking quite cool. Alright, and just try to get this as short as possible because I want to cut it into 4 pieces that include the entirety of the blend, and so you can use your roller to help out with that. Start stretching it in the opposite direction, squish, and it's okay if the blend gets a little bit messy at this point because we're going to be blending it again. And there we go, that should just about do. I'm then going to put that through the pasta machine again, stretching it this way. Okay, And here is how that should look. Now you're going to take that, and you'll also need a piece of white polymer clay that has been rolled out on the same thickness setting as your blend. Doesn't matter what thickness setting that is, just so long as the two are the same. For reference, I have this on the thickest setting, so roughly 2 millimeters thick. And what I'm going to do, let me actually move that white just out of the way so I don't nick it by accident. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bottom and the top of the blend, and I'm going to take those two and I'm going to stack them together like so, and that's going to be one part of the blend, and it's going to need to be rolled through a couple more times just to smooth it out, but I'm going to put that to the side. And then as for the main blend, I am going to cut that into equal sized pieces, and I think I should be able to get 4 out of this. Yes, I can get 4 out of it. And then the white comes into play, and you're going to take that white and you're going to just grab one of these so that you can get a strip of white that is the same size, like so, and then trim away the extra white and just trim up that bottom part. Alright, and then I'm just going to pop that back there, and you're going to take a very small strip of white, then you're going to double the size again, and double the size again. Does not need to be absolutely perfect each time, roughly will work. And then you're going to take that white, and each strip you're going to add to your blend like so. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take those blends and you're going to fold those up, and for each of them you're going to mix them through the pasta machine again like you did with the original blend, rolling the same direction as you did before. And what this white is going to do is it's going to tint the blend, and you're going to get a progressively lighter blend. Then we're going to roll that together in a certain way so that we have a two-way blend where we've got a skinner blend going one way, but then you have the blend going out towards white in the other way. And you'll see what I mean when I'm done. Okay, and there we go. That's how it should look. There should be a very slight difference between each blend, but if you look at the top blend versus the original blend, you can see that there's actually quite a big difference. So we're kind of making a double skinner blend here. Now you want to choose what's going to be the center. I want the original blend to be the center, so I'm going to start with that one. I'm just going to move these guys up just so that I have a little bit more working space. There we go. Alright, and for this I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it, and I want to work it into a rod. I don't want it to be a sheet of clay anymore, so just roll it up on itself like so. Try to avoid air bubbles as best you can, and then just taper those ends. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take that same rod, you're going to place that down onto the next skinner blend up, and you're going to wrap that blend around the piece, closing up that gap like so. And you may need to thin out each blend that comes next, because this one I can see just barely made it, so let me give that a roll. And then this next one and the other ones that I've got, I am going to roll out each on a thinner setting. So this one rolled out on the middle setting, so I'm going to go down 1 setting. This one I'm going to go down 2 settings. This one I'm going to go down 3 settings. There we go. Then you're going to continue with that process of just popping this down, lining it up, and then rolling that piece up. Make sure when you're doing this to avoid air bubbles, and if you overlap, that's perfectly fine as well, just so long as it's the correct part of the blend. Alright, and then you'll just continue that process going up through the blends that you've created, creating this Skinner blend effect both ways. And there we go, that's what you should be left with. Now I'm just going to chop one of the ends just to show you what I mean by this blend going the opposite way. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to chop on the other end as well. Okay, and there you can see how that looks. And it's not going to be the absolute smoothest thing in the world, but it will do. Then you're going to take this and you're going to reduce this down. Actually no, don't reduce that down yet. Let me undo that by just squishing it up on itself again. First, what I want to do is I want to add a layer of black and white. Also, if you happen to notice these little bumps, just give it a slit with a knife and push the air bubbles out, because those are air bubbles trapped in your cane, and those can be a problem later on. So if you can get rid of them now, that is always the best. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to roll out some white and black on the middle section of my pasta machine, or about 1mm thick each. Okay, and here that is, with both pieces stacked on top of each other. Then just take this and pop it down on there and wrap it, and I like to have it so that the white is in the center and the black is on the outside, but it is up to you whether you want that or not. You can swap the black and the white around if you want, feel free. And then look, I rolled there. Then what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of cut that at a angle, and what that does is it creates a little bit of triangular cut. And then when you place that down, it should fold over neatly onto itself, like so. Then let me just move those out the way. Then you're just going to give that a roll to settle everything together, and to also just press any air bubbles out that might be present. Alright, and now you're going to reduce that. And you're going to reduce that down till you can cut it out into, I'd say, at least 15 pieces. So just roll that out. And if at any point it gets too long for your work surface, you can always cut it in half and then roll it as two separate canes. That works as well, so don't worry about keeping it all in one long piece. Yeah, and just keep doing that until you can cut out roughly 15 pieces. It can be more than that if you want. And there we go, that should work. Then the first thing you're going to do is just trim those two ends up, and those are going to end up as scraps. And then you might need to just even that out a little, and then you're going to cut that into lengths, and this is the length that I'm going to go with. And then you're going to take that and you're going to continue cutting and applying it together, cutting and applying. And I think I'm going to go in 4s, and then I'm going to stack, cut again, and then you're going to continue doing that through the cane. And the important thing is that you keep it so that it's you don't want to mix these up. They do need to go in order for this to work, because I want the Skinner blend to run through the entirety of the cane. So continue stacking and cutting as you stack, or cut them all at once and just make sure that you keep them in their correct order, and then just continue going up through the cane until you've used up all of your little pieces, like so. Okay, and this is what you should be left with. It's almost like a mod cane, but not quite the same. Then you're going to take this and you're going to reduce it down until you can cut this into 2 pieces comfortably. So I want it to be about this wide twice. And I'm going to use my roller to do that. It will make it a lot easier. And then one piece I'm going to use just as it is, as the cane, and then the other piece I'm going to use to make a magic mokume gane. Okay, and as you reduce, the blend will continue on through the cane. Each slice is going to be a little different from the other, which is what makes this cane quite fun. And by reducing this, you're going to be squishing all those pieces together, getting rid of air bubbles, and just make it one solid piece of clay. And let me know if you've tried this type of cane before. It's the first time that I'm showing it on camera, as I've said before, but it is quite a cool cane. Similar to the mod cane again, but not quite the same. Right. And that should just about do. And I'm just going to trim one end to again show you how that looks. And you can see there that it's ended up with quite a nice tiled effect. And as the cane has reduced, that blend that we did in the beginning, where we go from kind of a dark to light, becomes more blended together and a little smoother. If you want that blend to be smoother, you can create more blends, gradually mixing the white in even more, because mine ended up quite choppy, but you could do that and it would end up being a bit smoother. But I quite like this effect, I'll be honest. And you can see it will continue on through the blend, and then you could pop them together like that, which is how I'm going to assemble the piece. This I'm going to put to the side. This is our cane, let that rest, and this one is going to be our mokume gane, and I am going to trim the other end. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I do need that end to be mostly trimmed. Then what I'm going to do, and this is fairly important, is I'm going to take it, and rather than squishing it this way, I'm going to be squishing it as if it were a diamond, and I'm flattening it out. So just take that and squish down on that one corner, flattening it out like so. And you can use your roller to get that going once you've kind of flattened out that one corner. And then you want to just roll that flat until it's about 2 millimeters thick, I'd say. That generally is a comfortable thickness for any mokume gane piece. And this is going to require a deep stamp to get the best out of it. So select some stamps that will do that. There we go, that should just about do. You could roll it through the pasta machine if you want to make sure that it's all correct, but I generally will go with feeling. Right, and I'm going to pop that to the side, and let's go select a stamp. Okay, and to start, before I even apply a texture stamp, I need to brush over that surface with some cornstarch. Also need to make sure there's no trapped air bubbles, so that I get a nice even print. And then I'm going to bring over the texture stamp of choice, and that also needs to have a dust of cornstarch, and this just prevents things from sticking together and makes the stamping process easier. Then I'm going to take that, place that over the top, and I'm going to give that a very firm roll to get a imprint. Then I'm going to place that down again, and I'm going to give that a roll again. Okay, and there we go. And I might actually go back over the spot. I don't think I pressed hard enough, so let me make sure that I get a good imprint on that side, but you should have a nice deep imprint like this. Okay, and that should do. Then you're going to want a nice sharp flexible tissue blade, and with that you're going to just shave over the surface to reveal your mokume gane. Okay, and let me just lift that up. Okay, and you can see there how it should look. And you're going to just continue shaving off that top part to reveal your pattern. And that is the mokume gane that is going to match with the cane. And again, you can use any texture stamp you want. The one that I used is from my Etsy store, Jessima Design. There will be a link in the description below for that, along with some of the other tools that I used in today's video. But yeah, feel free to use any texture stamp you wish. There we go, that's how it should look. Then you're just going to take a piece of paper and give it a quick burnish just to smooth out any remaining ridges in that piece, like so. Okay, and there we go. And it should be completely smooth, no ridges or bumps at all. Okay. And then that, in combination with our little cane, is going to be what our bracelet's made of. Now, the bracelet that I am going to be making is going to be a wrapped one, and so I'm going to use this long cutter over here. Again, this you can find on my Etsy store, Jessima Design, and I want to plan my piece around it, because otherwise I'm not going to end up with enough clay. So, I'm going to use this to fill in spaces, and I'm going to use this as my main piece. What I need to do is I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to look how I want this, and I think I'm going to take it in sections like so, so that we have a blend going through the bracelet, so that we can continue that theme. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to see roughly how big this is. Okay. And I'm going to cut that into 3 pieces just about, and that should fit any area of this cane that I want. And then I'm going to take that, bracelet that I want, and I'm going to have trouble fitting this on camera actually. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place this down in the middle, and I'm going to grab this, and I'm not going to actually press it down so that it's stuck. I'm just going to see if that is going to be long enough. Yes, okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right here and here, and I'm going to lift away the extra clay and place that together, and I'm going to give it a burnish, and it should sit together nice and flat like that, and that is going to form the base of the bracelet. And just like before, just grab a piece of paper and just on that seam line give it a good old burnish just to stick pieces together like so. There we go. Alright, and then I'm going to bring over the cane, and let's see if I can fit this on camera. Yes, I can. Excellent. Alright, and a thin blade, because that's going to give the best results. And you want to cut as thin as possible when it comes to this, because we're going to be laying that down on top here. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to place a very thin slice. It's okay if it's not perfect. In fact, I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to be in like the sort of thing that you get when you cut cheese really thin and it doesn't come out with a full piece. That's the sort of thing that I want. And just get it as thin as possible. This isn't the best angle to cut it at. Cut it at an angle that is comfortable for you if you are following along at home. I'm trying to cut it in such a way that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and that should be enough for now. You want a little bit of that cane left over, because I'm actually going to apply it to the back so that the back has a nice little bit of pattern as well. I'm just going to take that and I'm going to grab one of each of these and I'm going to lay that down like so, just on the seam line to make sure that I don't have any seams. And then I'm going to take this I'm just gently going to wrap that like so, and then I'm going to lay that over the top like so. And how you do this is completely up to you. It does not need to be any certain way. Just lay these down as you wish, like so. And when that is done, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to apply the same thing to the back, but they're going to be a little more orderly. Right, just place that down on the back, and this one too. Let's see, I want that. There we go. Okay, and that should do. And then before you make anything concrete, just bring this over and see if you like it. And I do like it, but I want there to be a little piece of cane on the end as well, so I'm just going to grab that, place that there, and I'm going to grab this one, piece that together. There we go. Place that down on that end. Okay, and that should sit roughly like that. I don't like how that looks. Let me lift that up. I instead want it to look like this. There we go. Alright, and that should just about do. I'm fairly happy with how that looks. Alright, then once you're okay with how it looks, pop that bracelet to the side, and then just burnish on the areas that are not completely flat right at this moment, which would be these pieces. There we go. And then once they're flat, just give it a feel, make sure it's flat, and then repeat with all of them. There we go. Then lift that up, and generally I would recommend using a firm blade to do that. Just lift it straight up like so. Flip it over, and then on this side I am going to apply only the cane slices. So just take that and cut again nice thin slices. They don't have to be as thin as before, and I don't want them to be kind of that straggly cheesy effect. Instead I want them all to be roughly a millimeter thick, and again I'm using a thin blade to do that. That should be enough to start with. And then what you can do is you can either mirror them together like this, or you can mirror them together like this. And I think I'm going to do it this way. And then just each time just take that and mirror them together, and then you're going to place that down in the middle, and then you're going to go across the entirety of the piece like so, and then that's what our piece is going to be. And I'm making a big effort for the back side of the piece, because with the twisted bracelet you get to see the back and the front, and right now I'm not even sure which one's going to be the front yet. I am in half a mind to make this the front and the mokume gane side the back, because I really do like how this looks. So we'll see once I finish it which one I want. But yes, you're going to lay them all down like so, and then you're going to burnish it just the same as I have been doing the whole time. And then once you've kind of burnished it a little bit, place it so that both sides of the clay are on a piece of paper, and then burnish again so that everything has a nice smooth matte finish. And then we're going to cut out the bracelet, wrap it, and place it in the oven. Okay, and there we go. And I have decided that this is going to be the front, and the mokume gane is going to be the back. I like it, but I think it's a little muddled, and I just really like the kind of sharp statement that this makes. So I'm just going to place that down. I've burnished both sides, but I am going to cut it out on a tile so it doesn't stick in the cutter. And also I'm going to be wrapping it around a glass jar, so there are going to be a few shiny spots. So I'm going to do it like this. And you're just going to take that And just choose a spot that you like and then press down. And you want to be careful when doing this because it's a long cutter, so it can be a little fiddly at times. So just make sure that you get it, and then I will go along the length, holding it in place and pressing, and that should give you a good result. Okay, and then to make sure that it cut cleanly, I will usually lift from the outside to make sure that everything cuts cleanly, like so. And then that's fantastic scrap, so don't throw that away or anything. And then lift that away, and then you have your bracelet cut out. Right, and before I do anything to lift that up, I am going to just run along the sides and smooth anything that might have been out of alignment, and this is going to give it a slight bevel on the front as well. And this is what I'm going to use to bake it on, a little glass jar. And this again is quite large, so I do apologise if it's a little awkward to view. I'll do my best. Just lift that up. Okay, and let me just bring this over. And I'm going to place this down like so. And then I'm going to wrap it around, trying to get it nice and straight, but tapering down because it needs to kind of fit under this piece here. Like so. And there we go, that's the wrapped bracelet. Then you're going to place that into the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and feel free to take it on and off the glass until you are happy with how it looks. It's okay if the shape stretches out a little bit because then you'll get even more of a wrap. But then once you're done, just run your finger over it a little bit to get rid of any fingerprints. Just run it like so and smooth it out. And then again, you're going to place that into the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. And then once it's baked, it's going to need a little bit of a sand, and because it's all clay, we won't need to worry about sealing it at all. And you can see there the mokume gane on the inside, so you're going to be able to see both patterns. Okay, and here it is once it's cooled and out of the oven, and you can see it should be quite flexible. Now, if this is too large for you, at any point you can rebake it, preferably inside a jar because that makes it easier. You can get a jar with a smaller circumference and pop this inside, and then you can see that it will very quickly twist around to that circumference. And then you bake it in there, let it cool, and then it will actively stay in that width. So you can make this larger or you can make it small. It's completely adjustable. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this polishing papers, and I'm going to start with the green because that's the first one, and I'm going to give it a sand. And you're going to work your way up through the polishing papers, starting with the lowest one, which is the 400, and then you're going to work your way up through the colours all the way up to the 8000. And that should leave the piece with a nice soft sheen. And then from there you can buff it if you want. I don't think I'm going to buff mine. I want it to have a little bit more of a satin rather than gloss finish. But if you wanted a gloss finish, you could just give it a quick buff. And you don't need a rotary tool for that. You can just use a pair of old jeans and just do essentially what I'm doing here with the polishing papers. And that should bring it up to a decent shine. A rotary tool will make it shinier just because it's able to go at a higher speed than you would be able to by hand. But yeah, you can do that if you don't have a rotary tool. But anyway, just continue going up through the grids like this. You can sand the back as well if you want to, or you can leave that completely matte. Same goes for the sides. And here we go. And you can see that that takes on a nice shine. It catches the light and will look very nice. And best of all, there's no waxes or anything on the surface. It is all just completely polymer clay, so you don't need to worry about it getting on clothes or possibly bleaching in the sun. It is all completely polymer clay. If you ever experience problems with things like alcohol inks fading or varnishes interacting incorrectly with clothes or anything along those lines, your safest bet is to just use polymer clay and polymer clay only. As soon as you introduce any kind of mixed media, varnishes or waxes, then you have to kind of limit the circumstances in which you would wear the piece. But if it's just clay, you're pretty much good to wear it in any circumstance. It is waterproof, it is sunproof, all sorts of things. But anyway, that is just about it for today's tutorial. I do hope that you enjoyed. I found it quite fun. I went with a full kind of colour palette, but feel free to change up the colours if you want. This cane would work quite well with ocean colours. I can see it kind of having the same kind of sandy gold colours, but then transitioning into more of a turquoise blue. That could look quite nice, so definitely consider trying that out. And this would be quite a nice beach cuff. But yeah, if you enjoyed the tutorial, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it helps the channel out and is greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to support the channel further, consider becoming a member. There is a join button just below this video, or there is a link to my Patreon account in the description below. Both are one and the same and are a great way to support the channel out, while joining a membership that has exclusive tutorials that are not shared on YouTube. Also, another way to support the channel out is to check out my Etsy store, Jessima Design, where I have things such as the texture stamp and or cutter that I used in today's tutorial, and that is another good way to support the channel. But yeah, that is just about it. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you have any questions or suggestions for future tutorials, please do let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.